Good morning, sports fans from all around the world, from Cape Cod to Tampa, from Vegas to the Vatican. I'm Jeff Dawson, your ECSI co-host today for the Breakfast Bankroll Sports Midday Market Report. Today, what we'd like to do is to go over Saturday, a little weekend recap. But without that, I will have to bring on my co-host from Tampa, the man with the plan, the one, the only, Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, you survived. How are you?
I am great, Jeff. How are you doing this morning? You doing okay?
We're hanging in there. I unfortunately had no power for 8.5 hours due to Elsa. But other than that, it was fine. We got a couple inches of rain and some high winds. Some branches, obviously, that have crashed down. Hit some utility poles, etc. But for the most part, we were okay. How about yourself?
We did pretty well in the storm. Like I said before, I didn't think it was going to be too much for us compared to some of the other things that we've been through. We got a lot of rain. I mean, down here it's probably somewhere between 4 to 6 inches. We got some localized flooding and stuff like that, but no wind damage, nothing crazy. We did not lose power. I did not have any issues regarding any of those things. And for the most part, I don't think any of our area really got hit, I would say, dramatically hard. I call these kind of storms the cleanup storms. You know, they come through and whatever's, dead branches on trees, things laying in the yard, stuff all over the place. They move that stuff around, but they don't really damage buildings. They don't really do a whole lot unless you get some rain.
Well, the last day of baseball till the break, MLB took a big hit yesterday afternoon as ACUNA tears his ACL. They said a complete tear, will be out for the season. The Braves were just hanging around, and obviously the assumption will be this will be the final straw for them. Not that I expect them to be drastic sellers. They're a young team. But overall, what I'd like to do today is maybe go break down maybe a couple teams, your thoughts going to the break, thoughts maybe moving forward. There's one game on Thursday, the Red Sox and Yankees, and then the season picks up on Friday. Yourself and myself, maybe tomorrow we'll talk a little home run derby, and then Tuesday we'll get closer to the start. But as you see, yesterday favorites 8-8, overs 9-7, some big dogs that cashed. Pittsburgh plus 172, Reds plus 189, Rockies plus 192, and the Phillies beat my Red Sox, cashing in at a plus 145. That not surprised the Phillies beat the Red Sox. I'm surprised Matt Moore beat the Red Sox. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he come up with the Rays?
Yeah, Matt Moore was he was one of their cornerstone pitchers for a while. And then he had some arm trouble, and I think they got rid of him somewhere, and he went someplace else, didn't do well there. And then last season, he actually pitched in Japan, and then now he's back. And not so sure he's I'll just check on him here in a second, but I don't think he's, going to light any fires for anybody. My guess is that he's just the guy that's just hanging around and getting his paycheck. And I don't think he's worthy of a whole lot. But I mean, again, all of these guys are professional pitchers. So at some point, they're going to have their day. And let's just see where Matt Moore is today. Matt Moore, he's made 6 starts for the entire season, and he's thrown 24 innings. So that means he's averaging four innings a game. He is in a pace right now. Let's see. Matt Moore. His xFIP is 6.27, and his xCR number is 5.83, and that's even after yesterday's games. His strikeout rate 16%, walk rate 12. He puts 1.77 guys on base. He is Philadelphia's worst starting pitcher of all their pitchers, and the truth probably is that until guys like Spencer Howard for them and Chase Anderson get their stuff together, he's just a fill-in guy that is going to have to eat up some innings, because over the course of 162, what is that? 162 times 9. That's 1,000 innings. You're going to have to find the innings for, and you can't rely on all your guys all the time, because they get tired, or they get a back strain or whatever. But I don't think Matt Moore is gonna get any interest from anybody at the trade deadline.
Yeah. No, and you're seeing a lot of these. I'd like to say soft tossers hanging around, as you said, collecting paychecks, and I think it's more a part of the system. Meaning, as we've talked about last year's 62 games, now you come into a full, season. This year, you need guys to eat up innings, and go back to June 4th or 6th with the Spider Tack announcement. And a lot of managers, it really sticks in my mind, Cora and with Martin Perez, who got lit up yesterday, and Garrett Richards, where initially they were getting pulled after an inning and a third, after an inning and 2/3, and then finally you basically Cora grabs them both and says, "Listen, guys, you got to fight through this. You got to figure it out. I'm not taxing my bullpen every fifth day for you." Right. So you're almost going into the day knowing these guys are going to try to muscle through 4.5 or 5, and they're going to give up 4 or 5 innings, and then you hope to stay close and win it in the back end.
Yeah, it reminds you of softball games, right? I mean, you go out there and, okay, one team scores 4. Well, you got to do the next thing. You got to score 4 too. So it's kind of like that, I guess. I mean, I'm just looking at velocity numbers and things for Matt Moore. He still throws, his average fastball is 91.9 miles an hour. So that doesn't hit my danger zone. Pitchers that fall between, say, 90 and 88, those guys get crushed. And the thing about Matt Moore, when you look at his pitch value, which is a thing that we never really talk about too much, but theoretically you should. Fangraphs has a really cool thing where they can go in and they look at the different types of pitches that a pitcher throws, and then they have outs above average or outs below average. And for Matt Moore, 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 of his pitches are minus, which means they are below average pitches. So people are getting more runs on average than they're supposed to. So when you got a guy that throws 4 pitches and he can't get any outs with any of them, that's not very good. And his numbers show that. So the direct comparison is like Zach Wheeler, right? We talked about how good he is and what he's doing. He's got double-digit outs above average on both his fastball and his slider. So then his curveball, changeup, and his split finger are also above average pitches. He's got 5 pitches, and he's getting outs everywhere. So that's the difference between somebody that's an ace kind of pitcher and then somebody that's hanging around. And for the life of me, I don't understand Major League Baseball sometimes, because you see this all the time. You see these Matt Moore type guys. St. Louis is now throwing LeBlanc, and I mean they just hang around forever. And I sit here and I go, there's minor league pitchers that have better stuff that can go out there and do the same thing. If they get hit, they get hit, but they're going to learn. And then they're going to develop. These guys are just hanging around forever. I would much rather start seeing baseball get youthful on the pitcher's mound with some of these guys, because they are getting more youthful on the position players. And instead of having all these guys just hang around forever, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Last day of the break, till the break, I'd like to say, keep an eye on some of these lineups. What some of the managers will do today is some of the big stars, you give them Sunday off. If they didn't make the all-star team, you're actually giving these guys an extra day off. I remember back in the glory days where like Pedro and Manny would already be, somewhere off in La La Land, family emergency, see you back on Friday. I wanted to ask you, and I don't have the answer. Four of the Astros have said thanks, but no thanks. Um, I know it's kind of they say that the game is bigger than these guys, meaning it's for the fans. That's what the All Star Game is all about. Now I understand the grind as well. I mean, it's a long season. Now you're using I'm dinged up. I got a bad ankle. I want to be able to rest a couple extra days. Is it a coincidence with the Astros' thoughts on these guys now bailing from the All Star Game?
Well, I think that it's a shame that your best players don't play in the game. But at the same time, I don't really think it's a game. I think it's an exhibition where these guys go out there and kind of celebrate the midpoint of the season and just hang out with their buddies and that kind of stuff. And if you're the Astros, you might start thinking those guys don't want to see you anyway. They're what are they going to do in the clubhouse all day and hang out with those guys for 3 days and just get beat up all about the trash cans and and all that stuff. So I don't really see it as a huge problem, other than you don't get your best talent in there. And to be honest, I think people really like the home run derby anyway. The game is just the game, and it's an exhibition of, okay, I went out there and did a couple things, and we either win or we lose. Although you say that, and then the American League goes out and wins all the time. So it's one of those things where I don't know. It's just weird that you. And in almost all sports these days, the NFL Pro Bowl game is just might as well be flag football, and basketball they go down and score 300 points in the game or 400 points in the game, no defense, nobody does anything. So they in a lot of ways baseball is the most competitive exhibition type game that they have. I would almost rather just see the Future Stars game where they bring up the younger kids and you get an idea of what they're doing and how they look, and then do some kind of skills exhibition or something tied into the home run derby or whatever you want to do. I think it'd be kind of cool to have pitchers out there and not see how hard they throw, but kind of like they do in hockey with some of that stuff, and they put plates at a certain spot and see if they can break plates or they can do whatever. I mean, just stuff like that, as opposed to what they are doing, and then they just call it a day and be done and move on to the season. Because the days when Pete Rose is out there running over somebody in an exhibition or in an All-Star game is over.
Speaking of young kids, the draft today, Sox with the number 4 pick, and it'll be interesting to see if Leiter slides to 4 or Rocker makes it to 4. If the Sox move into one of the Vanderbilt's big arms, kind of excited there. I'm not up on the initial some of these kids' names. I do know there's a left-handed shortstop as one of the number 1 prospects. I can't remember the last left-handed shortstop in the MLB. Can you?
No, I can't. And the truth of the matter is they'll probably move him. Just because you're a shortstop coming out of high school, because this kid's not. I don't think he's a college kid.
No.
So my guess is he is the number 1 hitting talent in all of the draft. How they can see that far developed out of just high school, I don't know. But the truth is that I don't think you'll see it, because the shortstop position needs to be a right-handed person to flip the double play, and I don't think you'll see a left-handed shortstop there. I just don't.
No, same here. I saw it and I chuckled, and I was like, that'll be a hoot on the show there. And then there's a catcher. And again, the 2 Vanderbilt arms there for the Red Sox. I think it's a perfect opportunity to move in on one of these. I mean, Jack Leiter's obviously got the genes with Al, who had a good major league career, and it will be interesting there for sure. I'm going to pull up the board today. some interesting matchups. Again, I would say buyer beware. We say that every Sunday, anyways. We call it, of course, Quicksand Sunday here. And then with the last day of the break, some of these lineups could be basically a lot of bench players. First game that caught my eye, Scotty, and I tell you what, this guy has flipped the switch. He's made us a lot of money, and we've gone on the first five with him, I think, the last 3 or 4 times. Not that they were on the game today, but what surprised me was the movement on the game. Going to 210, rotation number 905, 906. The Reds with Castillo versus Woodruff. What kind of surprised me was not that Milwaukee and Woodruff opened up at 138 or 140, but what surprised me the most was the overnight movement, where it was about an 18-cent move in the Milwaukee side. Now, Cincinnati, we had the Brewers' first 5 yesterday and snuck out a 1-0 win, and we're fortunate enough because Cincinnati put up a 3 spot in the 6th, and then actually won the game outright 4-3. But for you, how do you see the matchup of Woodruff versus Castillo today?
Well, I look at it like you almost have to discard or discredit what Castillo did in the first 3 months, first 2 months, because his numbers for the full season don't reflect how good he's pitching currently. So that's, again, a good precursor to some of the stuff that I tell people about why you don't want to. Who cares what he did in April? It's what he does now. So I only look at his last 30 days. So over the last 30 days, he's actually a better pitcher than Woodruff is. So not that Woodruff is not a bad pitcher. So the way I kind of looked at this game was who's got the better offense going right now, and that's Cincinnati. But they don't have the better offense in terms of deepness. India, the shortstop, is the guy who's hitting for Cincinnati currently. And I don't like to bet on a team per se to win a game if their guy over the last 7 days that's hitting is just one of them. So what I decided to do, and I actually played this game, so I'm glad you brought this game up. I did play this game. I played it as a first 5 Cincinnati plus a half a run because I got it at -105. And I can see this game being 1-1 or 0-0 after 5 innings. And I want to see Milwaukee actually beat Castillo. Then I want to see, because I don't know that that's really what's going to happen in that game. I was looking at, so Brandon Woodruff against the Cincinnati Reds. He's got 66 at-bats against them, 19 hits. That's a .288 batting average. So that's above league average at this point. The weighted on base average is .386, which is above normal, and the ISO rate is 258, which is about double. So when the Reds have made contact, we said 19 hits. 5 of those 19 hits are home runs. 2 of them are doubles. So 7 of those 19, almost half, are for extra base hits against Woodruff. So I kind of like the idea that the Reds can get a cheap one here or there with a double and then a single or something, or a double and a home run, get 2 runs. And when you look at it on the other side, weighted on base average for the Brewers against Castillo is 290. So that's below average. And the ISO rate is 113, which is also below average. So that means that they're going to be in a position where they have to string together a bunch of hits. And we talked about that already. It's hard to do that in Major League Baseball. And then it's hard enough to do it against a guy who's pitching pretty well. So I liked it with the idea that this game could be 0-0, 1-1, something like that after 5 innings. So I took the half a run at -105.
All right. Let's move off of this 1 second. All of a sudden, the Yankees pitching staff is unhittable.
There was a thing on Twitter. I forget what her name is. I think it's like Stacy Sharp or something like that. She does a lot of just Yankee stuff. But she put out today that over the last 6 games, the Yankees have allowed only 22 hits, which is the lowest amount of hits allowed in any 6-game span for the New York Yankees ever. And I thought, man, that's a pretty good statement because, there's a pretty good history here with New York Yankees, not necessarily pitchers, but that's a long history, and that's a pretty strong statement to make.
Yeah, and starts off Friday with the Cortez kid, and I don't know a lot about him. And it looked like yesterday that Cole had finally found out, he had struggled his last couple starts, and everyone wanted to use the spider tack there. I think a lot of these pitchers, it's taken some time, each outing every 5th day. It's not like they can go out every day and then work on their mechanics, throwing 30, 35 pitches. It doesn't work that way. So it's kind of good. It's almost like, how can I say this? It's a start to start process, what's working, what's not working. You've talked about the grips. Every day is going to be different. You might catch a cool day. You might catch a hot, humid day. But it's kind of nice to see some of these guys working through this where the Martin Perez's and the Garrett Richards are not. So the Sox are in trouble there, but that's for another day here. But going to this game here, 210, rotation number 923, 924, Yankees and Houston. Houston opened up at 155, now 136, 60% of the bets, 65% of the money coming in on the Astros, yet the line dropped 19 cents. The Yankees were plus 135, now plus 122. Thoughts on Talion versus Valdez?
Well, this is an interesting matchup because at the beginning of the season, Jameson Taillon came over from Pittsburgh. It was a great signing for the Yankees, but he was coming off of missing the season. So it's going to take him a little bit to get into his form. And looking at his last 7 starts, his average is 47.6 game score. His season's a 48. So he's not any better than what he was at the beginning of the season. So that's a little disheartening for me because his last 3 starts have been better. So that just averages out as 7 games. So and then I look at it that his last start was a game score 78. So he pitched really, really well. So what does that really mean? To me, that means that he's due for a bad game. If your last 3 starts are 10% above what your normal average is, then you need to have a regression to get back to the normal average. So in his last start was, almost double better. So I'm staying away from Taillon just because I think he's going to get beat up. The problem that I run into is that when these teams you start talking about getting beat up, and again, this is why you do things in a short segment, right? We talked about the Houston Astros as being one of the best offenses in baseball, and they are. But every team goes through a struggle, and it's very rare, but it happens. The Houston Astros are ranked number 30 in baseball in offense currently, number 30. So that's the worst. So I sit here and you sit there and you go, how can the Houston Astros be the worst offense? Well, because it's just a short little period of time, 7 days, right? The 7 days they go this way back and forth. But if you can capitalize, so for example, the Yankees are finding them at the right time. If they're 30th in baseball and you throw the Yankees pitchers at them to a certain degree, you're going to get some limited success. Yankees only won 1-0 yesterday, so it wasn't like they're out there beating the crap out of them. So I look at this like Taillon is in a bad spot, and Valdez, who has been a good pitcher for Houston all season, had his worst start of the time last time out. So that tells me he's going to probably have a pretty good start because he needs to get that average back up. So law of averages says, he's going to pitch pretty well. So I get the idea that everybody's jumping on the Yankees bandwagon. I just don't like it today. Because I don't think the pitching matchup favors anyone. Taillon is a 4.07 Sierra number. Valdez is a 3.97. They're right there, neck and neck, and that's average. So it doesn't look to me like Either one of these teams has got an edge today, other than the Yankees do for hitting, and the Yankees bullpen right now has been a little better. So if you really wanted to sit there and say, okay, there's an edge somewhere, you can add the offense and the bullpen to the Yankee side. But this is the last game before the All-Star break. The four guys for the Astros aren't going, so they don't care about what they're doing. They don't have to travel anywhere, so they might be playing pretty well. Even if they're in, I assume they're going to be in the lineup. The Yankees the same way. You never know that those guys have such a weird way they put stuff together for Boone. But it's interesting. I think this is a wait till you see the lineups kind of game, and as long as the Houston Astro hitters are there, I'm staying off the Yankees.
All right. Quick note here. I wanted to go to this one, a little possible revenge. Pavetta, former Phillies, facing Aaron Nola, who is one of the better pitchers in the game. It's a 110 start, rotation number 929, 930. Interesting here is the Sox opened up at 125, now at minus 113, receiving 71% of the bets, 55% of the money. So what we like to say here, again, is less bets, less money, but there's reverse line movement coming in on the Phillies. The Red Sox number has dropped 12 cents, and the Phillies go from plus 105 to 103. As I've stated here, for at least the last 6 weeks, I will state here again, anyone backing the Phillies today, make sure you back them the first five. I just stay away from that back end. I don't care if they're up 4 or 5 runs. I've seen them blow that. So you are getting some reverse line movement. You could grab Nola today at about probably a pick 'em to maybe plus 102, 103 in the first 5. Probably in some shops, he might even be favored the first 5. But any thoughts on Nola and Pavetta, Scotty?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup, and I kind of tried to look at it through the eyes of Pavetta getting his revenge here matchup against the Phillies too. My biggest concern is that Pavetta's last outing was a game score 84. So if you look back at his last 7 starts with Pavetta, if you go all the way back to he had a 69 and then a 42, an 18 and a 43, and then a big one, 84, and then a bad one, 13, and then an 84. So he's either on or he's off, or he's on or he's off. But he doesn't seem to string the games together, and that's what you normally see unless they're an ace. So he just came off of a really high score, which means it was a pretty dominant performance. So I don't like him in the matchup in a sense that even though he's got a revenge situation, that he's going to go out there and dominate the game. The other side of it, though, is Nola's got some good numbers until you start to look at his batting average against is 250, which is above average. His ground ball rate's only 35%. His hard hit rate's 41%. His home run rate's 1.73. So he's given up the long ball, and he's getting hit hard. I would almost look at a total in this game and go more of an over on the totals, because I think these teams can hit, and I think they're going to get some pitching that they can both hit, as opposed to picking a side.
All right, that time of the show, Scotty, what we like to call is the lightning round. The stage is yours. What do you have for the listeners today?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that I'm going to go away from some of my numbers here a little bit. So I like the idea that Toronto and Tampa Bay are playing again, and you have a matchup of Robbie Ray and Rich Hill. Rich Hill is his game score for the season's a 54. His last 7's a 50. Robbie Ray's a 55 for the season, so about average, but his last 7's a 60. So he's been dominant. He's pitching really well. His last time out was a 62. The last 3 starts is a 61. So he's been really good. And he's been really consistent over those 7 starts. But I'm playing sort of a against the grain kind of play here. I'm going to the Tampa Bay Rays today as a home underdog. I think you can get them at plus 109 and Rich Hill at plus 109. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, this will be the fourth time that the Tampa Bay Rays have seen Robbie Ray this season. So when a pitcher has thrown a game score 62, 52, 70, so they've all been good starts against Tampa Bay. More than likely, this will be one of those offset type games where you can't dominate a team 4 and 5 and 6 times. It just doesn't happen like that. So this is a good spot where you can get them at home. The Rays have won 6 straight games, which puts them in a pretty good spot when you consider the idea that that they're not going to have any issues with feeling confident. And then at home, they're 28 and 16. So they play well at home. And the Blue Jays are facing a left-hander, and the Blue Jays are 9 and 15 against left-handed pitching. So I kind of think that the matchup is in sort of a favorable position for the Rays. The momentum is with the Rays. You can get them as a dog. And in terms of batting right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are the number 2 offense in baseball. Number 2. And I like that, considering the fact that I think Robbie Ray's in a spot where he should struggle against the Rays. So it's a little bit different kind of wager for me in a sense that I'm playing it very contrarian against a better pitcher. But I kind of like it. So that's what I went with for my first one. And the second one I thought is the St. Louis and Chicago matchup, the Cardinals and the Cubs. You know, it's a rivalry type game. And what I like here is I like to go against pitchers that come off the disabled list. Yeah, or I shouldn't say it that way now, the injured list. And in this particular game, you have Williams that's starting for the Cubs, and he pitched one time so far coming off of the injured list, but it was a middle of the game kind of, I just throw you in, get you some innings type of a start. He didn't start the game, so and it was against the Pirates, which is a team that he no, it wasn't against the Pirates. That's his last start. It was I don't remember who it was against, but he was it's one of those situations where he was getting some work in. He wasn't the starter. He was kind of, quote, the bulk guy, if you want to call him that. And you got Wainwright who's pitching today, and when you look at WPA, which is wins added, win percentage added, win probability added, I'm sorry. There's only 2 pitchers that have a number like they do for the last month. Castillo's a .77 and Wainwright's a .75. Those are the 2 highest guys on the board today. And what it means is that when the going gets tough, those 2 pitchers have been really good, and they've been really good at run prevention, which keeps their team in the game. So I like the idea that you have Wainwright, who is a much better pitcher just in general than Williams is. Wainwright's off a game score 40, so it was a bad start for him. And his game score for the season is a 55. 50's average, so he's been pitching much better than average. And Williams' game score before he got hurt was a 43. So he's been very much below average, very hittable. And when you look at the Cubs offense, you got to figure out who's doing well for the Cubs. Right now, it's Javier Baez, and Javier Baez does not do well against Wainwright. And then when you look at the Cardinals, they've got 4 guys, including Goldschmidt and Bader and a couple other guys that are doing well, DeJong. And I like the idea that they can go 4 or 5 hitters deep against the Cubs. So I'm going to take Wainwright at kind of pick 'em price 109 in that matchup.
All right. So the last day of the break, Scott E. Webb, Rays plus 109, a contrarian play. I did have, we had Jays first 5 yesterday afternoon. And let's just say we got Brandon Loud, not 1 but 2 homers. So we took the sting there. Currently on a great start though for July. Our VIP guys, 15-5 to start July. We're on a nice little run here. We did eke out, as I said yesterday, the Brewers' first five before they ended up blowing it. So that was good there. Your second play cards -109 with Wainwright. Get off this. Closing thoughts, Scotty, for the last day here before the break for all the listeners.
Well, I think that the next set of things we need to be watching as we come out of the All-Star break is the trade deadline. I just read an article earlier today that they believe the Cleveland Indians are a team that is added to the seller list. And when you start to think about their lineup, they don't got anybody except pitchers. So they might be selling off some pitchers you've heard of. And if that's the case, then that can change some of the dynamics as the process starts to get towards the end for teams that believe they're in it. Let's say the Yankees were able to get, Savali, or they were able to get somebody else, and get to a point where, even if Bieber's for sale, these guys can get in there and make differences for other teams. So it'll be interesting to see. I think you and I talked about it the other day. The American League is wide open. The National League, I don't think so much. So I think that it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And the only other foreshadowing that I can think of that we need to really look at is it's a shame that ACUNA got hurt because he's one of the younger talents that we have in the league. And I'm not so sure what baseball is going to look like in 2022. And I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil and confusion and chaos leading up to that with the bargaining agreement that has to happen. So this might be, this July through August, September run here, one of the better runs that we've had in the American League, and probably some entertaining baseball until we get to a point where we have no baseball and we wish we had it all back, because you're going to hear a lot of mudslinging and, crazy stuff happening, and who knows, even if they start on time, get a season, who knows what's going to happen next year.
I agree 100%. Thoughts and prayers to ACUNA, speedy recovery. That kind of opens the floodgates in that NL East now. Will be interesting to see if the Mets decide to make a few power moves here, knowing the fact that, with ACUNA out, with Schwarber out for some time now, maybe to strengthen their lead on the East. For my closing thought, I just want everyone to make sure they take an extra 5 minutes today and look at the lineup cards. There's going to be a lot of second and third tier guys in the lineup today to give some of the bigger stars an extra day off before the break. So if you're going in there and you're all, not afraid to lay the lumber on a couple of these big favorites, and then in the second inning wonder why you don't recognize some of these names, it's on you. Don't say that we didn't warn you here. So also today is another day where I think sometimes the mentality on a lot of these guys, they're already gone. I'm not going to the All-Star game. I got a chance to go away for a couple of days. I'm going to take the family here or there. So just be careful. Always, bet with your head, not your heart. And I know it's the last day of the week for a lot of people here. If you're down, don't go into the day saying, well, I'm going to get that money back and then some. And because we call it Quicksand Sunday for a reason. You're compounding this daily and daily. Now you're at the last day and you don't want to pay the man. I'll show him. Well, usually when you wake up Monday, he showed you. You're hungover and you're now scratching your head saying, how am I going to pay the man? So if you're in a pinch, take a step back, breathe. There's always tomorrow. So with that, myself and Scotty says thank you, everyone, for sticking around with us today. Scotty, we made our debut on Twitch today. So we're grabbing platforms as we speak. Tomorrow we'll be talking about some home run, maybe numbers, talk a little more about the game, and we'll break down a few divisions as we see fit as it gets closer to we're already at the halfway point, Scotty. So I was going to say the halfway point. So we're well on our way to almost 90, 95, and soon to be 100 games played. So everyone have a great day. Best of luck with your wages, and we'll see you tomorrow.